My name is Laci Adams. One of the most powerful moments I ever had in the church was when I was pastoring a church in Denver. I was in seminary at the time, and my church had decided that we were going to march in the local Pride Parade, which started in the neighborhood that the church was in, which is a predominantly sort of queer neighborhood in the Denver area. And so the church gets together and we go ahead and we get ready for Pride. And I'm going to go to Pride after we march, down to the meeting ground. And so I decide that I'm just going to put my Pride regalia on. And I made a pair of capri pants out of rainbow-colored fabric that had rainbow-colored ribbons at the end where I tied up the capris. And I had a pink undershirt on, and on the top I had a pretty crass political comment across my bust. And I went to the church, and we did worship, and then we went out and we all lined up. And the church knew who I was, and I've always been out in the life of that church and been honest about who I was and the things I loved and the kinds of people I loved and how I had a real love for justice, and that was about in the church and in our political world. So the church knew who I was, but people knowing and people really accepting are not always the same thing. And I decided that this was an opportunity for the church to just really love me, not just know me. And so we went, and everyone loved the shirt, this politically crass shirt I was wearing, and they loved my pants. And as we were marching down through downtown Denver in the Pride Parade, anytime they'd see pockets of young people, older members of my church would grab my hand and walk me to the side of the parade, and they'd say, "This is our pastor. So we know that this is our church is a place where you can be safe. And we know it because she can come to church like this. And we love her for it." And they did this dozens of times during the Pride Parade. Every time there were groups of young people, they did this exact same thing. Not because I told them to, but because the gospel required that of them, because they knew that we live in a world in which young people don't always feel comfortable because they might be different, because they might think differently, because they have questions, and they knew that if the church was going to be a really open place, we had to show it and say it and do it every way that we could. And several of those young people started visiting the church, and I cannot tell you the pride the day we accepted some of them into membership, because that church, not only did it love me, really, really love me, but it loved the world enough to risk everything that was safe so that people like me could find a place in the church.